Today we have the head coach of the U.S. men's national team, Jurgen Klinsmann, and Boca Raton native, Josie Altidore.
Native.
Jurgen, if you could just start with your thoughts on tomorrow night's match against Honduras.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that meeting with Honduras and that occasion to have our group together in a way that we can explore more things on the field and keep on, developing this new start, this new cycle. And it's exciting to see the first steps that the players have done, with that game in Czech Republic and the follow-up now in Hartford. And this is now another occasion to see, where certain players are, what they bring to the table. And so we're really looking forward to that game.
This is also the first time the men's national team played in Palm Beach County, not the first time here at FAU Stadium. If you have a question, would you please raise your hand? I'm sure Michelle does. So.
Can I ask either one or just your...
Both.
Oh, both. Okay. Well, Josie, can you welcome home? And I don't know if you've even played. Have you played this close to home ever? And what does it feel like to be back?
No, I haven't. I played the first time I played. No, actually, we played a few times in Florida, and Sunlight was probably the closest place I've been to Boca. So I'm excited to play here. I'm going to have a lot of friends and family in the stands, a lot of people who've been around since I started playing soccer here. So I'm looking forward to that.
When you drive into Boca and just see the surroundings, does it bring back memories? Does it look different?
Yeah, driving even in the FAU, those first soccer fields you see there were the ones that I used to play on. They used to host tournaments there and stuff like that. So a lot of memories come back to where it all started, and but also reminds me of where I need to go. So it's exciting.
Brian.
Jurgen, you talk about turning the page. Mixed Diskerud has been a highlight of the first two games since the World Cup. He seems to be on the cusp of maybe taking the next step. Could you talk about what you'd like to see from him over the next 4 months, both with you and then with his club situation?
Yeah, I mean, he's one of these guys that kind of start to step it up now. Try to take their game to the next level. And following the World Cup, our message to him was, to become more aggressive, to take things more in his own hands, to become more confident, to follow through with certain things, get in the box as well. And he took that message very well. There's always competition in this roster, and if the roster is smaller or bigger, it doesn't really matter. There's always, somebody that wants to take your spot. We obviously purposely decided to give a younger generation now a chance to grow and get games under their belt and get minutes, but also with specific messages to follow through, and he's got those messages. We want to see him more aggressive. We want to see him getting into one-against-one challenges, become physical, become stronger, and as I mentioned a few times, he has certain elements in his game that are very special. Great vision, great passing skills. He smells where the ball will go. Things that are difficult to teach. So the other elements are possible to teach. So hopefully he makes out that next step, and he's in the middle of that process. A bit similar like Alejandro Bedoya. I think Alejandro now is stepping it up too, and Alfredo Morales is made a huge step. He was not in the World Cup roster, but he kind of went first a step back, going from Berlin to Ingolstadt. Now suddenly he's in first place with Ingolstadt, knocking at the Bundesliga door. And he's their starter every weekend, always 90 minutes, one of their leaders. Made a huge jump. I mean, Josie could certainly describe that as well. So we want these players now, stepping it up.
As you talk to Mix about his club career, just part of pushing these guys to the next level mean that he should leave Norway? Is that something that you've discussed with him?
Well, I think every one of them has his own specific situation, so I'm not going in there and say you need to kind of move from club X to club Y. It's because it's also for us coaches difficult to look into that club environment and say this is going well and this is not going so well. I think that every player has his own situation, and we just help with advice when the players are coming and when we're talking about it, and hopefully we can give them help in that process. I mean, the most important thing is obviously they're playing week in, week out. and Mix is doing that right now. They unfortunately didn't qualify for the European the Europa League, basically, the second tier of European competition. But so far, I hear a lot of good stuff out of Norway about him, and he's consistent in his performances, and that's what we want to see.
Simon.
Michael Bradley's season at Toronto has been a bit up and down for Toronto, a bit disappointing for him in some respects. Have you seen that affect his form in any way, or is he the kind of player who can put that aside when he comes into the national team?
Well, we obviously follow every one of them in their club environment, and it didn't go really well for Michael at all. Since coming from the World Cup to Toronto, and that you just follow it from a distance, and you see, obviously we watch the games, and we hope that for him now coming back into the national team environment, he wasn't with us in the Czech Republic purposely because we wanted him to continue fighting for a playoff spot with Toronto. We'll see now where he's at. We see now how he kind of deals with all these issues. Obviously, it looks pretty much like they're not making the playoffs, even if they mathematically they still have a chance, but a very little one. We'll see now how he deals with that, to deal with that disappointment.
First question for Jürgen, and I have one for Josie. You were talking about the club environment for various players. How do you assess Josie and his situation with his club?
Well, it's very difficult, and we talk about that. It's our most important, expectation is, that he gets playing time, that they put him on the field, that he gets the possibility to score goals. If he's not on the field, we suffer with him. We just hope, we watch the games week in, week out, and then when he comes in, no matter how many minutes he gets a chance, we kind of just keep our fingers crossed that he gets a possibility to score. I was myself with Andy Herzog at Sunderland, and I know pretty much, how to evaluate that situation, which is very difficult for Josie. We all know, what he's able to do, and when he's not able to express that or bring that to the table, then it's frustrating. It's hard. But our message to him is, and has always been, fight your way through it. It's not always, just all sunshine. You got to go through those moments too in your career to fight through it, to stick to a plan, and to use those minutes. And sooner or later, you're gonna score. You just scored one, a few weeks ago, and we hoped, now he's back in. But obviously, the coach had another idea. We respect that because it's their specific situation. But we just help there wherever we can, and then hope that sooner or later he's through it all.
Josie, how are you handling the situation? How are you able to keep your confidence up, or are you able to keep your confidence up?
I mean, like I always said about this topic, you're going to go through these times, and like Jürgen said, it's about, keeping the mental part of it, strong, because it's never going to be all good times. And when these times come, you're tested, and you have to be patient, wait for your chance, but also stay true to what you're all about. And that's one thing I'm always saying to myself is to kind of, not change my mentality just because the situation isn't going the way I want it to. So just have to be patient and try to make it happen there. And if not, look for solutions.
Paul.
Jürgen talked about obviously bringing some of these younger players in to give them a chance to experience international level. How important is it for the group itself, for even players like Clint and Graham Zusi and Michael Bradley, to see some of these younger players and to feel that competition from the younger players within this group?
I think it's very important, and it's a process, especially between two World Cup cycles, that it's always kind of you push the restart button. You want the more experienced players to get challenged. You want the younger players to come out of their shell and now breaking in. But at the same time, when you kind of create that competitive environment and intense training sessions, and obviously everybody wants to look good. At the same time, you want the more experienced players to take those younger players under their wings. You want almost like a mentor situation, where Clint Dempsey helps now a Bobby Wood, to start, his career to, so we want the older players like Jermaine Jones talk to a mixed disc route. This is what it takes, if you want to break through big time, you got to do this. So those are kind of my messages to those guys that are around the block for so long now, that they see that and that they help that younger generation now, And obviously the biggest learning curve they can go through is being on the field and getting minutes, So that's why we purposely went with a very young roster to Czech Republic, why we had that roster up in Hartford and continue to have that roster even tomorrow night. So this is now the period of time to do it. The closer we obviously get then to the Gold Cup, where it's then a real tournament that qualifies us hopefully then for the Confederations Cup, the more you zoom in and say, okay, now it's clearly about getting the job done.
Josie, I know you're kind of in between the two groups. You're 24 years old, but you've been around for a long time. Can you speak to what it was like for you when you were first coming in at the beginning of the cycle, and also how you look at this period, this beginning of the cycle, and mentor maybe some of the younger guys coming in and bring them into the group?
No, it was when I was coming, it was very similar. You had a lot of senior-based players. You had Steven Trundlo, you had Carlos Bocanegra. You had these guys that kind of, were senior, were the more older players in the team, and you were learning from them. They were helping you along, and it was great for me because I had that confidence always that, if they're going to be behind me, mistakes or play good or play bad. So that was important for me when I first started, and it's got to be the same way now. Guys like Michael Bradley, Tim Howard was here, Brad Guzan, Jermaine. We have to, try and help these younger guys and help them understand that, it takes different things at this level to be successful, and that's all part of the learning curve for them.
Guys, this question is for you both. This is an exciting time for soccer in Florida with the new team in Orlando and hopefully at one point a new team in South Florida. How important with the amount of athletes that come out of this state is cultivating the sport here in particular?
Well, I'm not the insider now, in terms of what all happens here in southern Florida. For us, it's a great destination. It's a great place to play games, and obviously we want this market to break through, especially also on MLS level. And this is what it looks like, with Orlando coming in, it's big time, and then they're working on a solution in Miami as well. It's a huge soccer environment down here. So we are thrilled with the national to come through Florida, and to enjoy that for a couple of days, and we hope that every market, out there in the U.S. is getting just stronger and stronger.
Kyle.
Jurgen, how does having the 5 MLS guys that you called in for this friendly change things as you sort of approach the game against Honduras tomorrow night?
Yeah, it changes certainly a couple of things, but without now going into the starting formation, you want to figure out as a coach how much time can I give each of these guys, out of that game. And the good part of a friendly is that they have 6 substitutions. That's really that helps, because we want to continue to grow that younger generation right now. And I think, and I spoke to a couple of the guys last night, one-on-one, they understand that process could mean that here and there they are left out, and that's fine with them. They understand that, but tomorrow definitely we will shake it up a little bit.
Jurgen, as far as Jermaine Jones goes, he had an outstanding World Cup and playing well on MLS. He turns 33 next month. What do you see his role in this upcoming cycle, and did his performance at the World Cup kind of give you confidence that he could have a bigger role in this upcoming cycle, even though it's going to be 30?
No, as I'm going back to that topic, what role do the more experienced guys or older guys, play going forward? It's one thing, obviously, they have to prove, their qualities, no matter what they did in the past. And I think Jermaine played an outstanding World Cup. And on the other side, we want them to become mentors, help that next generation to break in and understand what it really takes. And I think he's a great example because he played many years for a Champions League team, so he played it really on the highest level. And he went through a lot of up and downs in his career. He went through a lot of arguments, a lot of changes. I don't know how many coaches over those 10, 12, 13 years he had, so this is stuff that we want him to communicate, to the next generation. Say, you know what, maybe next month you have a new coach and you got to learn how to deal with that. You have to learn to adjust yourself to whatever circumstances are happening in a club environment. But also we want him just to tell them, to give themselves always an extra push. And I think with Jermaine, I don't know when it was it 2 or 3 years ago with the January camp, he was red carded for 4 games, and I brought him in, and a little bit later, at the later stage in the camp, and some people criticized that, how can you bring him in? He's just red carded at the club team. But, the first day, I just remember at the then called Home Depot Center, he just elevated that training session within 2 minutes. Everybody was completely on a different page, because he showed them really the speed of thought, the speed of the game, the passing, high precision, and all these little elements that we want to see from a real top player. And they got it. They got it, within a couple of minutes. This camp was on a different level, and what we expect from these guys that were on those levels, that they pass on that experience, and also that a little bit of a peer pressure to the next generation that says, there's a lot of work waiting for you. Never settle with yourself. Never get too early satisfied. And I think Jermaine is one of these guys, when he gets angry, and we want him to show those emotions, and also kind of when he's not happy with something, to express it, to keep everybody on their toes. So he got to still prove it, if he kind of runs out of time, what happens with older players, then it's my job to communicate that. As long as he stays on top of his capabilities, it's just great to have those experienced players around. Sooner or later, for everyone, is coming the moment when the coach will communicate and say, you know what, I want to bring through the next younger one. Hopefully understanding, but that's just the way it is.
Jürgen, the Friday night when you lost Joe early, that probably didn't look good initially, and then the reports are that it's a relatively minor thing. How relieved were you to hear that?
It's unfortunately not a little minor thing. He's getting surgery back in Germany, and he will be out probably until January. Yeah. So that's unfortunately the results of an MRI that was taken here. He flew over to Germany, and their team doctors decided to have him undergo surgery. So he will be out quite for a while. That's a real bummer, because he really gave us some spark.
Last one for Doug.
You're going to talk about veterans. Michael's another veteran. He's only 27, arguably not even in the prime of his career yet. In spite of a rough first year in Toronto, how big a role do you see him, and how much are you going to rely on him over this next 4-year cycle?
Well, Michael is age-wise not, where now Clint or Jermaine is, but experience-wise, he's there. I think he has about 90 caps already. I mean, Josie has about 72, so it's pretty outstanding, at a very early age, to get to that point of your career. I mean, I think he's faced with a very, very difficult year. Making that decision, going from Roma, a Champions League team, to Toronto, that now seems like they're not even qualifying for the playoffs. It's a huge disappointment. That comes along with you adjust yourself to whatever environment you are in. So he had to adjust to the environment he's with Toronto, instead of maybe an environment that plays Champions League football. So he's going through that experience now. And still coming in now, the first time since the World Cup, he has to prove that he hasn't lost a bit. So obviously we will keep working and pushing, but it's down to him and his environment to see what level he's capable to play.
Concerned that he's going to spend the next 5 years of his career on what?
Concerned. I mean, there's nothing I can do about it. I mean, I made it clear. I made it clear with Clint's move back and his move back that it's going to be very difficult for them to keep the same level that they experienced at the places where they were. It's just reality. I mean, this is just being honest. I want him to to get through the big, difficult time at Sunderland and maybe make a big step one day to a Champions League team in Europe, you know, because that's where the top players in the world play. You know, now making the step back, I totally get it. You know, it's a huge financial offer. It is also connected to many other elements, you know, and this league is getting better and stronger every year, and which we are all very proud about, you know, and I want everybody to grow in this environment. But reality also is that, you know, for both players, making that step means that you are not in the same competitive environment as you were before, you know, and so it's not easy for Michael. It's not going to be easy in the future.
Thanks, Jürgen. Thanks, Josie. The mix zone will open in about 3 or 4